Hello, welcome back to the channel. I am in fact outdoors, so if it gets a bit noisy, I shall move. I've been wanting to talk about this topic for a while now. I have discussed it with a few people, and I'm going to share my thoughts with the general population. So today I will be talking about what the title says, which is the fact that confrontation is not the same as communication. What do I mean by this? I feel like confrontation has been given a pretty negative image, especially nowadays with the internet and stuff. It's like, oh, I'm not confrontational, whatever. I mean, insert TikToks.
Yeah. And it's really not that deep. Really not that deep. Don't make me repeat.
Me a G. Deep throat when you blow my feet.
I'm drowning. Wrist so icy, wonder why she like me, bitch. I'm drowning.
If you know, you know.
I've always got that face on, bro.
I'm just waiting for you to vlog.
Why?
Because I'm recording
Recording what?
a video.
For what?
YouTube.
Huh?
Yeah.
I'm about to vlog now.
I'm not vlogging.
100% vlog.
It's not a vlog.
What is it?
I'll send you the finished product.
Okay.
Well, it could be a vlog. Nothing wrong with vlogs, but why does he see me as a vlogger? Anyways.
And now back to your regularly scheduled program.
Yeah, as we could see by the footage inserted, confrontation is something that usually has a pretty negative connotation, although it is something to get over. I've seen by some of the videos, I guess. But let's begin. I'm going to separate this video into two-ish main sections, which is my opinion. And then the second part is like a little bit of research, just so that, you know, for whoever wants to know, yeah, just extra information. You can follow the timestamps to see what you want to watch and all. Anyways, part one, my opinion. So let's talk about confrontation. What is it? How is it defined? According to Google, it is, and pay attention, a hostile or argumentative situation or meeting between opposing parties. And I think this definition says it all, and it honestly explains why I'm so against the term confrontation in the first place. I'm gonna let this marinate in your brain for a second. Keyword here is hostile, I would say. Confrontation is seen as this very hostile, obviously, interaction between individuals. And confrontation is a term that people give to situations where two people may be having a more serious conversation about their feelings, which, if you're calling it confrontation in the first place, you're already saying that it's going to be a hostile situation, which brings up the negative feelings that surround this word. Of course, if people have such a negative image of confrontation, they're not going to want to do it. And this brings up this fear of confrontation that so many people have nowadays that I just personally cannot understand. Well, I guess I can now, given the research and stuff I've done, but I just can't feel the same, because in calling these interactions between two people, which were more people, I'm not looking at the camera, am I? I'm not. Okay, we're just gonna ignore that I haven't been looking at the camera this whole time. Anyways, what was I saying? Yes, this fear of confrontation arises from the definition that people give to these moments. Of course, in calling these interactions confrontation, you're setting yourself up for this fear. You are automatically telling yourself that the interaction is going to be hostile and very difficult in general, when it doesn't have to be so. This negative image surrounding confrontation obviously comes from the definition, but it comes from how people are using the word, because society has deemed it correct to call any sort of interaction between people that are less not deep confrontation. They call it a confrontation. If anything remotely negative has happened between two people, automatically it has to be this hostile, aggressive situation, which is just incorrect. But like, I don't blame anyone for having a fear of confrontation because it was society that deemed it the go-to thing to do when people are in disagreement. Because again, it's a thing that happens between opposing parties. When I think opposing parties, I think people that are against each other. They don't want the best for each other, which I would say is a pretty selfish outlook on life. I mean, if you're having issues with a friend, let's say, it's not that you want your friend to suffer. You just want to correct the situation. It shouldn't be this hostile thing. If you care for each other, you should be wanting to have conversations with them and trying to fix things instead of just letting things fall, just letting them go. I don't know. Instead of ignoring the problem and let things get worse or just cease to exist. Things as in the relationship, I guess. So the main point is that the word confrontation is being used incorrectly because we associate these conversations, these dialogues between people about more serious stuff that might be serious, that might be fundamental to someone's relationship. We see them as confrontation, but I don't think that's correct. So here are some examples of how the word is used correctly. Let's say you hate someone, you absolutely hate someone, you do not care for this person, and you're fighting, and you're like getting aggressive, like a physical fight even. But the point is you don't care for the person and you're not trying to make things better, you're just trying to fight them. That's confrontation. You're like, you dumb bitch. So in the first example, it's about how you feel about the person. Like, you don't like the person, you're gonna confront them, you're gonna annihilate them, you're gonna make them feel like shit. You want to fight them, you know? But in the second example, I want to talk about when you do like a person, you want to improve things with that person, but they wronged you, and you're just getting really aggressive, and you're basically doing irreversible damage to the relationship. So you're being so hostile and so never want to see you again that it ends up being confrontation. It may create this feeling of there being two opposing parties that are not on the same side. The same side being fixing what's there, you know? Obviously, the aspect of irreversible damage may depend from person to person and how people are in general. If people hold grudges very badly, then it may be irreversible damage to the relationship, but if not, then it may not. But in that sense, that general situation can be seen as confrontation.
Slay!
I'm now going to outline some ways in which the word is being used incorrectly quite often, in my opinion. Obviously, this is all my opinion. When I get to the research part, it's no longer my opinion, but for right now, it's my opinion. So anyways, friendship hiccups. Friendship hiccups. These happen all the time. Especially when we're younger, like we're stupid. We're learning how to be citizens of the world. So obviously we're gonna mess up a lot, and sometimes you don't even notice. Some people are more careless than others, and it's not even intentional, it just kind of happens. It depends on how people were brought up. It depends a lot on the morals that the person has. I'm not saying anyone's a bad person, it's just sometimes these hiccups happen. But because we're silly little humans and we mess up a lot with people and in our relationships with people, we're gonna need to fix them. I mean, I feel like that's how things go. We may argue, we may get upset, I don't know. There's no need to just go ham at the person and be hostile. You can just have a conversation about it. If someone has this repetitive behavior of being selfish in the friendship, then you're gonna say, you've been selfish. Like, you can be absolutely civil about it. You don't have to take it to the extreme and just, you know? So that's where I would see this interaction as a conversation rather than a confrontation. Are you getting me? Another example of how it's used incorrectly is Karens. I think Karens are slightly misunderstood. I'm not saying I'm a Karen. I'm not. But for example, okay, okay, I wouldn't say Karens, but let's say you're a customer somewhere, you're at a restaurant, your waiter's being a bitch to you. You want to show how you're disapproving of the way you're being treated. And as a customer, you're technically always right. You are having a conversation with this person and explaining how what they're doing may be incorrect. You know, you don't have to confront the person like, you bitch, you spat in my food. I don't know, you can always be civil. And that's the difference. You can have a conversation about it. You don't have to like confront someone and immediately get feisty with it. Yeah? Yeah. But that being said, what exactly is communication? Because I keep bringing up, that's not confrontation, that's actually a conversation. So a conversation is just communication. So I'm going to define it for you. Communication is the imparting or exchanging of information by speaking, writing, or using some other medium. Imparting or exchanging information. We're just exchanging thoughts. We're exchanging opinions. When you're communicating with your friend, you're expressing how you are feeling. You're just exchanging this piece of information that you have that your friend may not have about you. This friend doesn't know how you feel about what they've done. Maybe they're not even aware of what they've done because, again, we're silly little humans. We mess up all the time. And at least I always just want to keep growing and become a better individual. And I'm sure a lot of people feel this way too. We want to know what we've done wrong to make sure we don't do it again, especially in that friendship. We just want to improve the friendship and make sure that it doesn't go in that direction again. Hola. So in Patty's terms, we've been able to see how the two terms differ and how maybe confrontation isn't the best word to describe most situations that people have in their relationships. Sorry for the location change. The sun.
Rise and shine.
We've highlighted in fancy terms how communication and confrontation differ. But I have found that there's three main ways in which they're not the same. First one being intent. What are you trying to do through this interaction? I feel like this is key. You should always be asking yourself, what am I trying to achieve by having this interaction with this person? You really have two options on what your intentions are. Do you want to fix the situation? This way you communicate with the person, you have a normal conversation with them. Or do you want to just absolutely end? I mean, now that I'm thinking, even if you want to absolutely annihilate the friendship or the relationship, whatever, you can still communicate. Like, confrontation really is so unnecessary. It's all about how you're feeling. Yeah, I guess the two intentions are, do you want to fix the situation? We have quite a few options now, actually. Ooh. Okay, let me think. Okay, let's start with the breaking down of, or like ruining a relationship. You can obviously still be civil about it. You can still just have a conversation and just communicate how the person has hurt you and how you would rather not have them in your life anymore. That can still be a conversation. However, I feel like when you become confrontational, you have no option but to leave the relationship, even if it's just temporary. But you're gonna have some form of break because you're gonna be really angry. You're not gonna want to see the person, and the other person, the receiving end, is gonna be like, what the fuck, why is this person such a bitch? They could have just been really chill about it, but they weren't. So they're gonna have negative feelings towards you. Also, if you intend on hurting the person, probably gonna want to confront them. Obviously, this should never be the way to go about things. Just because someone hurt you, you shouldn't want to hurt them back. Obviously, our emotions get the best of us sometimes, but this shouldn't be the goal, at least in my eyes. I don't know. Obviously, I've done dumb shit. I'm not. Every time I say anything, I'm not excusing myself. I don't think I'm an angel. Let's make this very clear. But yes, if you do want to hurt the person, I feel like it's more likely for it to be in a confrontational way through the intention, vibes, I don't know. Moving on. The second thing is word choice. Obviously, it all goes hand in hand. It all goes back to intention. If you intend on hurting the person, you're gonna choose very intricate words to hurt them. maybe you're going to be swearing more. But if you're not trying to hurt them, you're really going to think things through, maybe take a few pauses. Maybe you're going to write it out. Sometimes it's okay to just write out a text and send it to them to make sure the right words are being used so that you are very clear about how you're feeling and how you want the relationship to go, whether you want to end it or not. You have the option here. You can even use emojis in your favor, ironically or not. So, word choice, emoji choice, all of that works. And finally, tone. It feels like English slang lit, or just lit, either English. Anyway, tone and the volume. Confrontation, I feel, is more common the second someone raises their volume. And the tone, of course. If someone is being really aggressive, tone-wise, emotions get out of hand. If someone is being really, to me, I feel it in my heart. I get this heat of anger. And I find it so difficult to not respond the same way. And that's when interactions become confrontational. If two people are riled up, they're gonna get aggressive. If they're gonna start speaking loudly, the second one person raises their voice, the other person will, and then it's just almost impossible to avoid this confrontational experience. And same with tone. I would say that tone and volume usually take things out of control or keep it in control. If someone is getting yelly and stuff and the other person remains calm, then it might just keep things pretty cool, because then the intentions that each person has are very clear. So why do I think these three aspects are relevant? We can revisit the definition of confrontation to see why. Again, it's a hostile or argumentative situation. You can never control how the other person takes your words, but you also kind of can. Because again, the second one person starts increasing their volume, the other person is gonna feel it and going to want to increase their volume too. Let's say you have a fear of confrontation because you're scared of how the other person's gonna act. Let's say someone wronged you and you want to talk to them, but you're scared you're gonna get your feelings hurt. I would say that's under your control, because the other person is probably not gonna start yelling if you're not yelling. It's about how you're saying it. It's in your control. It doesn't have to be confrontation. It can just be a conversation. It's okay. So if you want to make sure that it doesn't become a confrontational interaction, you watch your words, your tone, and you keep your intentions in check. Obviously, sometimes it's hard. Sometimes in the beginning, you know exactly what you want, but then towards the end, things were said, hearts were broken, and then you're like, wait, fuck this. I don't know, just remember your very first desire that you thought this through. Also, I think it's very important to try to give it time before you have these kinds of conversations to really know, well, first of all, assess how you're feeling truly and not just how you felt in the moment that things happened. Because obviously, over time, we get a clearer perspective of how things went, and we are more easily able to detach from our more immediate feelings. So a quick little example of how confrontation differs from communication. Confrontation. I know you call me boring behind my back, you fake ass bitch. Communication. I just don't understand why, as my friend, you would say such a thing behind my back. You see, in the first example, I'm being confrontational. My words are all over the place. My intention is just to call them out, be like, leave my life, you're fake, you're permanently I don't like you as a person. The second I'm calling someone a fake ass bitch, I believe that for the rest of my life. It's my stance on the person.
Of course, people do change. That can happen. So what you thought about the person a year ago might change because the person has changed too. But still, it's about your stance on the person at that time period.
But that's just not something I believed. I just think that it was kind of fucked up for my friend to do that. I don't think she's a fucked up person. I just think what she did was fucked up. Do we see the difference here? Because the second we're getting really aggressive and attacking the person for a mistake the person made, maybe it wasn't a mistake, but still, you're establishing the intention. Maybe this person is really fake, but you can still decide to figure out whether she is or not truly by just talking to her,
I was just watching a show and the perfect example came up. Here it is. It's an example of how it doesn't always have to be confrontation. Okay, here it is. Ooh, cute.
Penny, you can't allow thugs to run your life. You gotta stand up to them. Let them know who's boss.
That's right. You never did, but good advice.
But that doesn't mean you have to be confrontational.
Yes, it does.
No, it doesn't. Talk to them, baby. I'm sure you'll discover it's one big misunderstanding.
So we are now reaching the end of my opinion segment. So I'm gonna give quite a conclusion. I don't know. I wrote it down, so I think I'm gonna read it just to make sure everything is very clear. Trigger warning. If you feel attacked, personally attacked, like it's not about you, it's about people who fear confrontation in general. And if this is the case for you, then take what you want from this. I'm not trying to shit on you as a person. I just think society has kind of skewed our perspective of what talking is, and that's okay. I mean, it's not okay, but this is why I'm making this video. Take away what seems productive to your life and what will add to your life.
I'm not a psychologist.
When you say you're scared of confrontation and you're not a confrontational person, my brain is translating that as you are not being able to communicate. In fact, it leads me to believe that you are a confrontational person. Hear me out. Hear me out. If every time you've tried to talk about something serious, deep, with someone else, and about that someone else, you can't keep your cool, then you might have to acknowledge this and work on communicating better. I even think that the infamous fear of confrontation may come from a fear of you not being able to control yourself based on past experiences, perhaps. I see it as a fear of letting the conversation escalate in a counterproductive way based on past experiences. A fear of hurting someone else's feelings or getting hurt. However, most often than not, someone has already gotten their feelings hurt from the situation itself at hand. And that person was probably you. Yes, you. The non-confrontational little slag in the cutest way possible. Be a word slag. Really let it out. Share your feelings. It's just because when I hear that someone is not confrontational or they're scared of it, I just feel like it's contradictory because non-confrontational people see themselves as avoiding these confrontational interactions. But I just see it as you avoiding the situation and just being a little selfish, to be honest.
People who are not confrontational are problematic. I like to pretend that confrontational people are problematic, but we are not the problem. We deal with the problem. If there's confrontation, I am absolutely neutral about it. I will deal with the problem. But avoiding the problem makes more problems. Don't get it twisted. You're not Switzerland. You're not an angel. A monster swept under the rug is still a monster. Addressing things does not make me the villain.
I find it so important to handle your business in collaboration so that everyone can grow from the situation. If you're not sharing how you're feeling and how the person wronged you, they can never grow. That's what I was saying earlier. If you don't put yourself in this maybe uncomfortable position, you're running away and hurting yourself and the other person even more in the process. You're hurting them more in not talking to them than in maybe. It's just because you're not even sure it's going to be a confrontational situation. It's just by not talking to them because you have a fear that it's going to turn into confrontation, you end up hurting them more in the long run, at least. Sometimes this damage is really only noticeable later on in life when you didn't change in the ways you needed to earlier on. Not that you have to change, but at least learn how to deal with certain situations, you know? And at that point, it might be a little bit more difficult to deal with our mishaps or the way we've handled our mishaps, if that makes sense. But this whole concept of handling other people and all that, I'm gonna get into in another video. And I'd like to add that not talking to people about how you're feeling is just not as satisfying to you. Again, if you're suppressing your emotions and you're just like dealing with it and talking shit about the person, I guess, you're just never gonna get that satisfaction, that closure, that peace from the situation. At least in my opinion, that's how I see it. I just need to have that conversation to like close the chapter, if it needs to be closed, because maybe sometimes it gets reopened. So I think it's worth a shot if you want it to be reopened, of course. But it's always worth a shot in my eyes to at least have a conversation about it. even if it's just for you. Even if you don't really care about the other person and how they do it the rest of your life, okay, that's up to you. No judge zone. But at least do it for yourself. And because I know you're going to be talking about the issue with that friend or that person to other people, you're going to be talking shit, and that would make you a bad person. You don't want to be a bad person.
Okay, bad person is a bit strong, but fake, I guess.
I don't think it's a problem to talk shit about someone when later, well, not talk shit. Well, I see it sometimes. Okay, again, it all goes back to tone and intent. If you are talking about someone else and how they wronged you with the purpose of later talking to them about it, and you're just trying to get your feelings in check and your ideas in order, then I don't see it as talking shit per se. Like maybe in the moment you're a bit riled up, so the tone is a bit talking shit-y, but you know. So because of this tone thing, it might be kind of important to revisit that chapter. But at the end of the day, if you're not letting the other person know how you're feeling and how they've done you wrong, you're low-key just a hater. Or the most satisfying resolutions of these situations, it may have all just been a big fat misunderstanding and just pure miscommunication. But if you never have that conversation, you're never gonna know, and maybe you're wasting the best thing that ever happened to you. Who knows? Sometimes. You never know. So what can we conclude here? Once more, communication is obviously really important to any relationship. And by avoiding communication due to a fear of confrontation, you are setting the relationship up for failure. And you're setting yourself up for failure. Because you're never going to be able to keep a relationship if you're always avoiding problems like this. If you're avoiding communication due to a fear of confrontation. I'm not saying this has to be in person. Seriously, if you're more comfortable just sending a text with a bunch of emojis to really be clear and concise, then do it. But still, keep in mind how much of an impact you may be having on that other person's life. And remember the 3 things: intent, word choice, and tone and volume. And this is the end of my section. I will now be talking about the research I've done. Okay, so I actually looked up what the fear consists of, but let's get into what the professionals are saying about this. Again, I'm going to be reading it because I don't want to mess up. And I'm not going to be going too deep into this because you can easily look this up yourself. This is just to make your life a little bit easier, I guess. So according to Healthline, the fear of confrontation is a form of people-pleasing behavior. Who would have thought? That arises from a fear of upsetting others, which I totally see. Well, why does it matter? If you're gonna leave that person's life anyways, if you just never want to see them again, it shouldn't matter that you're upsetting them. So realistically, you just don't want to upset other people. You don't want other people to know what you said and how you've reacted and whatever. But yeah, I think I almost see it as more of a fear of upsetting yourself, of just putting yourself in a situation that you may not be completely comfortable in. Although you can build on that, you can work on that in your lifeline. So fear of confrontation is bad because if you're silently suppressing your issues, it can literally become detrimental to your health and well-being. Turns out it can even lead to loneliness and depression. It is also harmful to your relationships, like I said, and ends up putting up a barrier that doesn't allow us to become more intimate with other people, because if we don't communicate our problems, we can never get closer to someone. We're just gonna leave every time. Because it is generally a bad thing, we can all agree on that, this fear of confrontation, since it doesn't let you even communicate. There's a few ways to avoid it. I'm reading from the website, so there's some strategies like reframing confrontation, which is what I'm saying, of don't see it as confrontation, see it as communication. Keep the conversation under your control by watching your intent, word choice, and tone. I think that's so essential. Yeah, the website's just literally saying it's same as feeling angry. Because remember, this is about making sure that these negative situations don't happen again in a friendship. It's about growing, it's about improving things. Don't see it as I'm ending this, because again, it's all about intent. It also suggests making a plan, being prepared for the moment, I guess sending a text, same vibe. Recognize and manage your feelings, resolve issues in real time. Oh, that's the opposite of what I was saying. Because I think maybe sometimes if you wait things out, it's better, it's easier to control the situation. But I guess you're saying that if you do it right away, it's not going to let it slide. And then, oh, because that's an interesting point. Because the second you leave these things, like if you let it pass like too much time, the person's just going to think like, why are they bringing this up? Like, it's been 5 years. You might need to have that conversation, but they won't. So I feel like it's just easier to bring it up in the moment so that the person can recognize where they went wrong. Because then it might prevent built up anger and built up grudges. Oh my God, built up grudges. And you might even need to get help. I don't know. Sometimes it's important to just learn how to deal with things. You can't run away from our problems our whole life, you know. You have to face things eventually. Back in the 90s, I was in a very famous TV. God damn, I really hope this video makes sense. So, yeah, I guess that's it. Take from this what you want. Again, I'm not trying to judge anyone for how they react to things. I just think it would be more helpful if we all just had conversations, if need be, probably in the moment, which reminds me that I have to go have a couple. Just conversations, it's okay. Having a conversation with friends, it's okay. All right, I hope you took something useful from this. Let me know in the comments what you think. If you disagree, let's talk about it. I'm not gonna fight your opinion. This is just mine, you know? Bye!